Uzi, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm pretty jazzed up. I want to, talk trash about Tesla Live, but this might be my favorite space ever.
Is that right? Why is that?
Uh, I think the conversation is a little speculative, which I enjoy. It goes in many directions too. We have great experts, and it's late night, so can I'm not focusing on something else while in the conversation.
Yeah, that makes sense. Chris, how are you?
Doing great, guys.
You got really excited there to start. You look forward to this. Do you enjoy the space too, as much as Uzi?
I sure do. It's always a fun one.
I'm a little tired right now, so I'm gonna have to rely on you guys. I know Chris has a bunch of topics. Robert, how are you?
Doing great.
Doing great. All right. Robert has enough energy for all of us. Michelle, how you doing?
Oh, it was a crazy day, but I made it.
Yeah. What happened?
It was the first mandatory everybody back to the office day, and of course, like a course which failed, and it was no network, so we looked like clowns. But it was fun.
Ah, all right. Well, welcome to AI Amateurs episode 10, everybody. The link at the top is to YouTube. You can watch it there too. What do you guys want to start with? Robert, what do you want to start with today?
I was listening to the Carlson interview of Elon Musk, and joblessness seems to be on his mind toward the end when he was talking about AI, and said, we still haven't figured out how we're going to find meaning for ourselves in a post jobs world or a post AI world. And that's something I've been thinking about a lot. And we don't have answers to what we're going to do for people who are laid off. I mean,
Does
number
he
one, go ahead.
does he give an estimate of how many people are going to be affected in the, let's say, next couple of years?
I didn't get to that part of it. I was just toward the end of it. So, did you hear him say anything like that?
No. I've been thinking about it too. I'm trying to estimate the number of people who are going to be, replaced by AI in the next 12 months to 24 months. Um, let's kind of, and I think we talked about this last episode, and I thought maybe, or maybe it was a macroeconomics space, estimated somewhere around 1 million jobs in the next 2 years or so, primarily from call centers. Michelle, do you agree?
Yeah, call centers are dead very soon, and it's just a matter of how fast they are ready to implement because the product is ready.
Exactly. So the first time I heard about the product being ready by year end was during the um, All In Summit when the Salesforce CEO talked about it. He said by year end we're going to roll it out to our customers, an agent that you can't distinguish from a human, and no one's ready for this. Nobody. And in a macroeconomic space that I was part of earlier today, they were talking about this as if kind of like, people want to speak to a human, like you're not going to be able to tell the difference. But Michelle, um, and Robert too, somebody made a comment that in that space, somebody made a comment that states are passing laws or getting ready to pass laws that if you use AI as your call center agent, you're gonna have to disclose it. Is that right?
That makes sense. Would it stop it? No, because you want to talk to a bank. I mean, New Bank in Brazil built its own customer relationship management system so that when you call the bank, you don't get put on a phone tree. You get routed to the right employee. Well, to do that, you have to talk to the AI for a bit, right?
Michelle?
Go ahead.
Well, at first it was that your call might be recording for training purposes, and we could keep the same kind of disclaimer and train AI with it. But I think it's fair that people are aware that they're talking to an automated system. Like I remember, like the first, I think you're old enough. The first like phone menus was like, "This is an Automated system. Please wait for the menu options, because phone menus were kind of new.
Yes, Rich Bira.
Yeah, just to jump in on this question, there's approximately 400 plus different legislations proposed across all the different states. And the FCC is the one that's actually taking the lead on trying to get this disclosure for AI voices. Um, so it's a bit of a mess because the White House put out a kind of objective of figuring out the AI policies, but then the states are jumping in and creating their own policies. Through the organization that I'm with, we have weekly calls in regards to all the different AI legislations, and we try to figure out which ones to tackle the most, or which one's the hardest one.
Robert, what do you think?
I've been cheating while you guys have been talking to Chat GPT and asking it like what kind of jobs are going to go away, how fast are they going to go away, and it has quite detailed answers. It says McKinsey says that 375 million workers globally could be affected by 2030, which is about 14% of the global workforce. But they do note that AI can create new jobs, which we haven't talked too much about. World Economic Forum says 85 million jobs, right? And so, yeah, you all should cheat while you're listening to Yaman. It'll help you be a better guest on his show.
Absolutely. I highly encourage people to use chatbots, whether it's ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini or whoever you want to use, throughout the episode, before, after, as often as you can. And I think it only enhances the experience for everybody. And I don't understand these websites like Seeking Alpha or certain people I've met. They just like swear, like kind of like they're swearing off social media. They swear off AI chatbots. There's a bit of an antipathy towards AI among the masses. Like not everybody is attending AI amateurs spaces. Not everybody is, using. I think, and I want to kind. This is something I want to explore a little bit. Like, why are people against using AI? I don't understand. It increases your productivity by 10 times, 100 times. Why are you fearing it?
Most people don't know what it does or how it works. They tried it, they might have gotten an error, and then they get afraid of it. There's a lot of fear when I go around America talking to everyday people. They're afraid for their jobs. They're afraid of change. They don't trust it. It's from a weird company they've never heard of before, right? Stuff like that. But they'll come around. Every time there's a paradigm shift, that you see these massive revolts. When Facebook turned on its news feed, 1 million people protested, right? And so I'm not too worried about the fear. It's something to understand and or combat with shows like this, right? Or media or talking to
Yeah.
friends and stuff like that.
Exactly. I think AI amateurs. I mean, I learned most of what I know about ChatGPT, Grok, AI news in this space because of Robert's contributions, Michelle's, Uzi's, Chris's, and everybody else who comes in regularly. This is where I learn. And every single day, I'm learning something new, what I can do using ChatGPT. Like, for example, nowadays, what I'm doing is after each space, I create a summary for my patrons now using AI. And after that, I create a summary, I have a conversation with ChatGPT about that episode. I ask questions about what I could have done better, grade me in detail, offer some suggestions. And we have this conversation for about an hour after every single episode. And it's incredibly helpful. It's amazing to me that people don't use these things every single day. I'm sure everyone on the board right now uses it at least once a day. Robert, how many times do you use it a day?
Chat GPT a lot, dozens, but I'm not even. I've made a list on X.com of 5,500 AI companies. How many of those have I used? A handful. And now I'm trying to interview people who are building companies. There's 2 email tools to automate your email. There's a project management tool I interviewed. There's a job seeking tool that I just talked to, right? So there's a bunch of different newer AIs that are applications of AI that most people haven't even heard of yet, and
Exactly.
not to mention start using, right?
We're gonna talk about all of these things in AI amateurs, and if you want your friends, family, colleagues to benefit from AI amateurs, please take a moment to repost this space, share it with your followers, and send the link to your friends, families, and also go to the top of our screens, click that YouTube link, and like the video on YouTube. This is the way we're going to go. I think AI amateur space is going to play a role in terms of accelerating the adoption curve of AI. Let's go to Uzi. Uzi?
Yeah, it might be in the hockey stick curve. But for your question on why people are resistant, I think the people that tend to be early adopters, they have a drive towards efficiency. And this is more inductive. They're a priority on learning, and then they tend to be more digital in their work. Whereas poo-pooers, their work tends to be more manual or artistic. There's a clear argument against AI if you're in the art sphere, that it's replicating one's work, especially if with literature or visual arts. But then manual labor, you don't really ever need it. Why are you seeking knowledge if you're doing the same repeated task? So those two, manual labor and art, they have an argument to be against AI replacing them in optimist in the future, or chat GPT making a photo.
Thanks, Uzi. We have Angela on the board as well. Angela, you were part of that macro space just about an hour, 2 hours ago. We were talking, and did I catch it correctly? You mentioned Figure AI might be exploring some IPO. Is that right?
I did. Yeah, they're part of a SPAC right now. So that will be coming. So we do have competition on the board. So I would love to see how competitive Optimus is with AI right now. And I want to.
Angela, just 1 second. So after that space, I actually looked around and tried to find any sort of spec announcement or information about Figure AI. Is this private information or is this publicly available information?
No, it's public. Yeah, Forge Global is public.
Forge Global. Has anyone else on the board heard about Figure AI being part of Forge Global? No. Angela, could this be a different company we're talking about?
No. I'll look it up. And put it in the nest. FRGE is part because I love IPOs, so I do a lot of research on them. I mean, I could be mistaken, but I kind of doubt it. But I'll look it up.
Okay, yeah, if you can please look it up and let us know. Let's do a bit of a because that would be big news. I haven't heard about it, and everybody just on the board gave it thumbs down, so they haven't heard about it either. Let's verify that. All right, let's go to Hustletown. Welcome. It's good to see you on the board on AI Amateurs.
Yeah, typically Monday is a terrific lady day for the wife, but I got a reprieve. She's watching some kind of murder mystery stuff, and I get a reprieve today.
That's interesting. Wait, what did you call it? Mondays are what? Wife reprieve? What is it?
Mondays are typical terrific lady days. So every
Terrific
Monday,
Lady Days.
she gets to do whatever she wants, and
Oh,
that's why I have trouble coming in at the Tesla at noon. That's her day. Sometimes I'm able to catch it, sometimes I'm able to, but
so what
tonight
were you doing today?
today
That's why I didn't see you until the live today. It felt incomplete.
today we had to take Chewbacca to the vet, and so we centered our day around our little dog there. And during the noon hour, we were kind of having brunch with the dog, and then when we got back, I got in around 1, so I was able to catch the later half and kind of did the replay. So I kind of didn't miss all that political jargon that was being thrown around.
Yeah, It was really heated today. I mean, I had to kind of like steer it left and right a little bit, but it was a heated discussion. We came close to losing control. All right. Anyway, back to AI amateurs. Hasseltan, how often do you use AI?
I use it every other day, at least once every other day. I'm a dungeon master for Star Wars, so I use it to create story maps and things of that nature. It's starting to get a little more inclusive. I just looked up training lightsaber forms. It'll give you a whole year regimen on how to become more proficient in the lightsaber form of Shicho, which is kind of impressive.
All right. Thank you very much. That's interesting. I didn't know that about you. That's cool. All right. Lumi, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, brilliant day. Just relaxing by Lake Tahoe. Can't complain.
Good. Welcome to AI amateurs. Michelle, what's the biggest news of the week in AI?
In my very narrowly OpenAI world, they shipped an update to the app, and there's a bunch of little uh, improvement of life features. If you ask the app for an output and it's going to take a long time, either with O1 or even the regular model, and you navigate away because we're all like have so short of an attention span and we're jumping from apps to apps. When the output is finished, you get a notifications from OpenAI with the first few lines of your output, so you can jump back into the app for the results. And there's like 5 or 6 other updates on their blog that came out. Little improvement of life updates to the app itself.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really good. I'm gonna go read those. Robert, did you get a chance to review those upgrades?
Not yet. Too much. I
Has
haven't.
anyone on the board? Michelle is religious about these things because he uses it probably hundreds of times a day for his work.
You asked me like how much you use AI, and I have a graph of how much hundreds of messages per hour I do. I'm gonna post it as a comment.
Are you
It's
serious?
yes,
Oh
it's
my
between
goodness.
100 and 250 messages per hour.
It
Do you
sounds
do that
like
in an
you're a
automated?
professional and not an amateur. I'm not sure this is the right show for you.
I mean, this is why we have it, right? This is why we have this show, because there's a huge gap between people like Michelle and others, and literally 99.999% of the world. So we need to bridge that gap a little bit between Michelle and, I mean, I like, even I have a hard time understanding what he's saying sometimes because he's just at a different level. Michelle, are you doing this in a automated fashion, like hundreds of messages an hour?
No, I use the voice thing a lot, and I have an iPhone 30, which means I have 2 iPhone 15s. And sometimes I'll leverage one, even my personal phone, logged on into the work account, and then vice versa. And one is just like transcribing the call, and another one is just like I'm asking questions. So I'm like having more than one conversation at a time, and maybe even like another one on the computer, and something is run through the API, and that's not even part of that graph.
Very interesting. All right. Chaitanya, go ahead.
Hey, yeah, I just want to talk about a couple of things in how I use AI in day to day in my job. So I work in tech, so mostly my job is mostly coding, fixing the bugs, and also troubleshooting those kind of activities I do in my day to day life. So it's changed a lot in the past 3 months since I started using Claude. I tried bunch of tools. I learned a lot of stuff from you guys, hearing from you guys. That's how I ended up testing all the tools. And finally I I found that for me, for my job, I felt Claude is the best for me. Dude, it's like I was surprised to see how helpful the Claude is for me in my day-to-day activity. It's it's like the small things, right? The simple things like indentation issues. I break my head sometimes an hour or two to fix it. Though we have the code editors sometimes, especially the Groovy and stuff in the pipelines. The Claude, I just put that, I put the error, I give the code, it tries to fix it and give me the the clean code. I just use that. I was showing this morning to one of my coworker. He was just surprised. Dude, what the hell? I was like, I didn't know about it. This guy was using Copilot so far. Okay. I was laughing at him, dude. Copilot is nothing. It's just a crap. Like when you compare, I don't know if for other people, for me, especially for I mean the coding and stuff, it's a crap for me. I felt that's what I felt. For me, I
Interesting.
would.
Let's dig into that a little bit. Michelle, what do you think about that comment that Copilot is behind the times?
They obviously have not tried Canva, because Canva is the response to this for people working on code. You have a conversation on like a 1/4 of your screen on the left side, and you're working on your code on the right side. You can edit it. It's literally like OpenAI Canva. I think was extremely new, or it rolled out this week. But now every Plus user has ChatGPT 4.0 with Canva to work on code or work on letter you're composing, text, whatever you're working on in a like an iterative fashion, like not a conversation that flows linear, but like you're working on a piece of text that you're trying to work on. Canva is an extremely good tool that compares with Copilot and the others.
Interesting. Rich.
Yeah, I was going to actually just what I saw last week within regards to AI. I mean, aside for AI, I use it pretty much every single day. I'm using some platforms to help clients build kind of like micro agents within their kind of operating system day to day. But I spent last week with the Consumer Electronics show, and there's quite a bit of traction happening in smart home space with AI. So like Samsung's building their own large language model, LG is, and so all these bigger tech platforms are getting ready to show their next iteration at the Consumer Electronics Show. So like Samsung had their developer conference last week, and they're showing how you know AI, their Bigsby, which is their voice, is now using a large language model, which is tying into the data from the home. So how you're living day to day, even tying into your wearables to understand if you're stressed, if you're not sleeping, or if you have diabetes. So they partnered with a glucose monitoring company, and all that's kind of the next wave of AI is going to be kind of bringing in that real time series sensor data, and using the same kind of transformer models with time series data. So exciting, and it'll be interesting to see. CES is going to be pretty packed with a lot of AI products.
Thank you, Rich. When is CCS?
CES is the first. It's always the first week of January. So I think
Okay.
this year it's like the 7th.
And you're going to be there?
Oh yeah, yeah. And they just
Okay, great.
announced Jensen is going to be speaking a keynote speech.
Oh, wow. Okay, perfect. Hopefully you'll give us some updates in January from that conference. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Rich is our um, resident doctor, I guess. Sorry, Rich, I muted you, but are you a doctor?
No, I'm not a doctor.
Okay,
I
sorry.
do a lot in the wellness space.
Okay, great. You are our resident healthcare correspondent. How about that? Does that work?
Good enough.
Okay, perfect. That's awesome. All right. Michelle, before we close the chapter on Salesforce agents, when do you how do you I mean the CEO said by year end they're going to roll out to thousands of customers. Do you think that's possible?
I think he is doing a little bit of an Elon move there, where he says it, and the people that are actually it's their job learn about it, because the CEO was kind of bold and said it publicly, and now they have to deliver. It's a interesting way of motivating your troop, because now they have to try to do it, and like you're not going to win if you're not trying, and they're trying really hard. The gist of it is that businesses are very slow to change, and it's difficult to make them change fast.
Yes. And that's exactly what somebody said in the macro space I was in with Angela. And the person said, and it makes sense, CEOs aren't going to lay people off in masses and then say we're using AI, in general speaking. It's going to happen over time. And I thought that was a very insightful comment. Chris and then Uzi.
Yeah, on this topic, I find it really interesting. I agree with you. Really, the approach I think that is going to work the best for most companies is that they are going to use this to augment existing people, and then through attrition, hopefully, like versus just firing people, enhancing the productivity and the workload of users. But eventually, that's going to result in many people being laid off. Just briefly on the other topic mentioned by, I think it was Rich, on the home automation front things. It's such an interesting thing. I've been watching this here. I watch like how Apple is trying to kind of grab a hold of being that interacting or that interaction point for Apple, and then Bixby, like Samsung, I think it's Samsung that runs Bixby, like they're trying to control it and kind of centralize everything on their end. And I feel like this is an effort that is not going to be successful. It really, I think, is going to now start opening up with, for example, like ChatGPT's real-time API that they put out, which doesn't have all the voices in there yet, but this will make it so that we can have our own systems with our own data integrated. Granted, we're still sending it to OpenAI, but eventually we're going to be having a real-time voice-based conversational agent that we can own, that we can control. I think that's something. I mean, I've been doing this with there's a product or a software called Home Assistant, which is wonderful, that really does already integrate many of these things. You have to be a little bit of a hacker or a little bit of a guru to put these things together, but it is a very interesting thing. But we can't control this stuff all with one system, because it really doesn't, then it won't work with your iPhone as well, or it has to all be centralized in some way. It's going to be interesting to see what Apple does here in the near future.
Thank you, Chris. And as Chris was talking, a lot of speakers are reacting. I actually recommend that. I recommend speakers show whether they agree or disagree with emojis. If you're in the listening mode, you may not be able to see it, but you can go to YouTube. And on YouTube, you do see speaker reactions. Just don't abuse it like Lumi does.
Yeah, I'm going to give a quick reply to that.
Hold on. We got Uzi's hand up here. Uzi, go ahead.
Yeah, I think crushed it. The first wave seems to be productivity gains. I do believe the next one. I was talking to my boss, who's a CTO, and I was like, "Well, what happens once we have productivity gains?" He said, "Well, we won't fire people outright, but we won't renew them when their contract expires if we can replace them by doing more with less." I do think that there's an assumption that the infrastructure is proper, and what I mean by infrastructure is, I guess, the workflows, and then also the data and reporting is structured properly, and that we can go down that rabbit hole. But I think for the most part, it's not going to be all one fell swoop. You fire a whole round of employees because of AI. That might be a political disaster. But over time, it's just your people will start. There'll be higher turnover, and it might not be the outright reason that a person is gone is because of AI. It might be muddled, but more will be done with less.
Thank you, Uzi. Uzi, how much did you sleep last night?
About 6 hours.
6 hours. Are you feeling tired? Feeling okay?
No, I'm a night owl, so
You're a night owl.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is your time to shine. All right.
I'm caffeinated.
Okay. Lumi, go ahead.
Yeah, the cultural approach to this is the whole like Maslow's hierarchy mixed with that whole frog in the water, in a boiling water. The idea is that you don't want to like put a frog into boiling water; it'll jump out. But if you allow it to slowly increase the temperature, it won't realize that anything's changing, and then it cooks. So the idea is that the same thing will happen in the workforce. It will be so incremental that most people won't notice it. However, I'll bring the point to the port workers who noticed automation in their own environment and how they were very, very quick to point out that they were against it. So you're going to see strong union places be the beachfront, the only movement against this, basically.
Thank you, Lumi. Michelle?
Yeah, the call center thing is already there's a grief filed by the unions where they have unionized the call centers, and that's obviously not going to be part of the first 1,000 customers implemented by Salesforce. But you sent me down a rabbit hole this morning by asking your AI what time it is. I want to talk about this
Yeah,
because
so
there's a
so
layer.
let me hold on. Let me just give a little context for the audience here. But we're gonna Michelle, we're gonna get to that in a second. Let me go to Rich, who has his hand up for a while, and then Uzi, and then we're gonna switch the time topic. Rich?
Yeah, 2 quick points. In regards to the customer service stuff, so there's other companies that have been working on this too. There's a customer service platform, NICE, NICE. I listened to a conference call last week where they're doing like all of realtor.com customer support, and they're trying to push the narrative of the augmenting the call center. There's a lot of laborious stuff from like taking the tickets and tagging them correctly, and they've all got KPIs where they have to make sure that they're doing X amount of calls per minute. So there's other companies already doing it besides Salesforce. So that was in regards to the customer service stuff. In regards to the smart home stuff, I was just quick reply. So in the next couple of weeks, you're going to see Alexa is going to release their new AI voice with Claude. So it's something that they've been working on really hard. And Google as well is rolling out their Google Assistant with Gemini. So there's consumers are going to start to see and feel this, because you got to understand how many devices are in homes already. So it's going to be a different kind of voice interaction where it's capturing that context and conversations back and forth. I think that that's going to, and I agree with what the guy was saying in regards to there's going to be these vendor lock-ins, because LG is trying to do the same thing, Samsung is, Apple is. There are some open protocols in regards to the smart home platform. There's a new one called Matter. Home Assistant, I have my 500 plus devices are connected to it, and there's going to be open source voice. I think that's where you see what Sam Altman is working on, potentially with Johnny Ives, is going to be some in-home device. So I think that the competition is going to heat up in regards to voice in the home.
All right, thank you very much. All right, half-hour mark. We just crossed the half-hour mark. Congratulations, everybody. We have about 2 hours. I was going to do 1 hour, but I think we have a real strong group of speakers and lots of topics to discuss. So we'll keep it going for 2 hours. Just a quick word of thank you to our sponsors. AI Amateurs is sponsored by Tesla Live, your go-to source for premium Tesla accessories. And because you're part of the Tesla Live community, Joa is hooking you up. Use code TSLA Live for a special discount. And while I read the second sponsor, I would really appreciate if people could go up to the top of their screens and like the YouTube video. You can reach it through the link at the top of their screens. Our second sponsor is Paymore. Paymore buys, sells, trades, and recycles electronics, because Paymore believes the best technology doesn't have to come at the cost of our planet or your wallet. Join the Paymore revolution. Visit one of their 100 stores near you, or visit paymore.com. All right. Michelle, let's talk about. Oh, sorry, did you have your hand up earlier?
Yes, I did.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, first, I just went and liked the video on YouTube, so takes like less than 20 seconds.
Thank you.
I will say, wow, continuing on to Lumi's point about the port strike, fearing automation taking jobs. I think that's one of the cases where Optimus or Figure, once deployed, becomes politicized, because there's a face to the humanoid in a company, and then behind that, Elon Musk. And I would say in the next, it's kind of broad, but the next 3 to 5 years, if there are more movements like this port strike, you will see political figures be attuned to that and try to run a campaign with some policy proposals on it.
Exactly. I mean, this is going to get really big really fast. And I'm glad we're having these spaces to get prepared, armed with knowledge. All right, let's go to Michelle. So the context behind what Michelle was saying is last night I was talking to ChatGPT and about something. And this morning when I continued the chat, it said, yeah, make sure to talk about in tomorrow's Tesla Live, thinking that it's still Sunday, even though it was Monday morning when I picked up the conversation. So that made me think, I guess ChatGPT can't tell when the time has changed, when the day has changed, which I hadn't thought about before. It kind of makes sense, but it also creates a bunch of problems. So Michelle, what did you think of it as you were thinking today?
So, as I often do when I want to compare AI tools, I went to the website I linked a few episode ago, where you ask it a question and it spends your token on all of them. And most of them are getting it right. It's like there's just like the safety layer would catch you asking something you're not supposed to be allowed to do, and say like, no, I can't tell you how to make a bomb or whatever. There's some sort of layer that catches like, oh, the user's just like, yeah, we need the current time to compute whatever the user is asking for. Maybe you're asking it to do some calculation that needs the current time. And OpenAI is wrong, but even like astonishingly wrong sometimes in the future. And I'm like, wait, what time is that? Oh, it's going to be ATC, but no, I mean UTC, Universal Time Code or something like that. No, it's like 20 minutes in the future. I'm like, what? Or like it's so I'm confused how broken it is with OpenAI, but at least it kind of like it's not spot on what time it is, but it actually is on the date. But if it's a few hours old, or if you continue a conversation from earlier, it might have built the context from yesterday, but you're continuing the conversation today, and it still thinks it's yesterday because it's refeeding your whole conversation every time you ask a follow-up question into the AI. So it's refeeding the whole conversation you had last night when you continued the conversation this morning.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, this is probably one of the things that they're gonna have to fix and smooth over somehow. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I was like, I found an error here. This doesn't make any sense. I was very proud of myself. Um, let's go to. I was gonna ask one more thing here. All right, Adam, go ahead.
So I work in the voice AI space. We work with several different clients, family entertainment centers, lawyers, hotel, casinos. First thing on the current time issue, there's a function that you can add in on there, so it'll bring the current time and current date into the equation, so that won't be an issue. In regards to the job potential loss, we are seeing that several of the organizations that we're currently doing business with are looking to repurpose the clients. The goal of the voice AI is to remove the long part of the call and remove the call abandonment. Just for example, in the casino cases, on the casino reservation side, those departments are typically only open a certain amount of hours, and they have roughly between a 15 and 25-30% call abandonment rate. So in that regards, this ensures that every call is kind of answered right away, and those casino guests are, adhered to properly. So just my 2 cents on where the industry is. And then as it relates to the legal intake world, those big class action lawsuits that you guys all see, those late night infomercial ads for Camp Lejeune and asbestos cases, legal intake firms sell that information to lawyers that handle those cases for a top dollar, and qualifying those cases is really, really important to them. So voice AI is here to stay. It is going to have a significant job reduction impact, where you might currently have 40 people in that reservation office. You can cut that down to maybe 5 to 10 people. You can repurpose them, or in the casino cases, they're there to make money, and reduction of jobs of $50,000-$60,000 a year employees to handle that, where the all the calls are being answered and the customers are getting accurate information at their fingertips, is very, very important to them.
Thank you very much, Adam. It's good to have you on the board. Michelle, I see your hand. You had your hand up.
It's like the call abandonment was striking a chord with me, because about 2 hours of my day was spent jamming to the same 90-second song on hold to call a supplier, and it was to know what the client's account number was. Took 90 seconds. I'm pretty sure an AI could have figured that out. And the security was to tell the customers postal code, like a zip code. So yeah, security is not always the most difficult thing to validate with the call centers we have right now.
Good. Thank you very much, Michelle. And thanks, Adam, again. That was great. If anybody in the audience would like to share their experience with AI, please request to speak. Maybe we'll learn something. I mean, every single person is using AI in different ways, and you're kind of like stumbling upon a unique way of using it, leveraging it throughout your day. And we would love to hear about it. We're just sharing best practices. This is really good conversation. Lumi, go ahead.
Yeah, on that note, I came across this today with Grok, which is kind of interesting. So, if you try at the moment to get any political character who's running in the election on Grok, it gives this little disclaimer, kind of thing like that. But then what's really interesting is that when Grok first had the image generation ability, it was much more creative, much more extravagant. The first day was incredible, the first few weeks, and now kind of with the restrictions, it's lost its creativity, and it's like mischief, like ingeniousness as well. And I think that this is something interesting to note, because the restrictions we put on it kind of will impact the outcome, and that was really like a weird thing I came across recently.
Thank you. Interesting points. Chris?
Yeah, just on that note, I'm not 100% sure if Elon, or for that matter, Grok, implemented the new version of Flux, but I presume that it was put into place, or restrictions were put into place, because like they were trying to avoid all these lawsuits. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, but one could generate all these, I think, various Disney characters and so forth, which clearly represents like a risk. I just want to point that out. So that could be the reason why they did that.
When I think of that risk, I think of a three-letter word that Elon would love to say to Disney. Uzi knows what it is.
GFY.
I can neither confirm nor deny. Chaitanya?
Yeah, I was just exploring the canvas. It's really good. Cool. Thanks for that suggestion, Michael. And I have a question on the day-to-day news, right? So I do use Perplexity just to go through sometimes. If I wanna, I mean, instead of Googling or going over multiple links, I just go to the Perplexity and just try to search it. Do you guys have any suggestion that better tool than Perplexity? I don't expect 100% results, but at least something. I wanna know if you guys have any suggestion on that.
Uzi, then Michelle.
Well, I love Grok AI, but that's great for real time news. And if there's a fight that breaks out with a celebrity, that's where you want to go to Grok. I do use Copilot a decent amount. I work in the Microsoft Fabric, so it's especially helpful there. But if you're using Perplexity, you're probably getting the same value out of Perplexity you would out of Copilot.
Okay, I just want to make a PSA, public service announcement. Earlier, Robert was having issues with connection, and now I'm seeing a couple other people having a similar experience coming up to speaker board. It might be because you installed iOS 18. I did that earlier about an hour ago, and it gave me a bit of a hiccup with internet connections. I experienced the same on my phone and my laptop after I downloaded installed iOS 18. That might be why, but it goes away. So just be patient. Michelle.
Well, OpenAI was beta testing a standalone search product, but I'm not sure they're gonna release it because the regular 4.0 model is able to catch whenever it's relevant for whatever you're asking it to go make a web search. But I would not be my first recommendation because it under the hood it uses Bing, and like if you're searching something on the internet and you're using Bing, the quality of the results are not the best to work with. So it might as well be an AI that's super fast and able to ingest and look up the first 5 or 10 results web pages. It's still the first 5 or 10 Bing results. So you would use Gemini, and it's going to do a Google search for you, very high quality web results when you take the search giant AI to do your web related search queries.
Thank you, Michelle. Let's go to Dave and then Bradford.
Yeah, so you told me to request the mic. I shared a post which I said AI seems to be sold on productivity improvements, and I heard a lot of talk about that at the moment. But I think there's a big problem for more mass adoption and also for the big change that's coming in the workplace with this is if it's just a productivity tool, well, then we're still competing in a kind of industrial revolution mindset of a unit of time equals a unit of value. And we're basically competing against something that doesn't sleep and doesn't eat. So that game and that kind of competition makes no sense to me. I think people need to be more educated on the more kind of nuances of what you can actually do with AI, not what it can just save you some time, and then time is the most precious gift. I use AI to make me sound less robotic, to explore some of my vulnerabilities and stresses and pressures, and then share more stuff and get over my own bias. But I see there's a fundamental kind of shift needs to be towards that art director and people being better at inputs, but also people having better expectations of outputs. Because I see, especially when people are new to AI, I'm impressed by how quick it created something. Instead of I have the knowledge and tools to assess if it's good enough for what I wanted to do. And I think somebody said this a few weeks ago. I thought it was really interesting. He said 5 years ago, he would have told his kids to learn how to code. Now, in the AI age, he would tell his kids to learn philosophy. I think that part where workers are used to, we went through the information age of too much information. Let's do databases and rows and spreadsheets and productivity tools. And I think all of that is immaterial now, but we have to be more creative. But our past has kind of stifled that creativity.
Yeah.
So I just don't see it as a productivity tool. And I don't see it should be marketed as a productivity tool because it wipes out the people who are equating a unit of value to, or a unit of time to value.
Thank you, Dave. All right, Bradford and then Robert, then Uzi.
I want to hear Robert first, actually. Go ahead, Robert.
No, the point is well made. Working with AI is different than anything we've done before because we can have multi-step prompts or conversations with it and have the machine do all sorts of different things. And you can automate your life. Every piece of my life is being automated by various companies. And that's something we don't talk much about because the the email automation tool, or the spreadsheet automation tool, or the project management automation tool hasn't really come out yet and is in their very early infancies. But I think that's something we're going to be talking a lot about on this show over the next few months, because more of these apps are coming every day.
Thank you, Robert. Uzi?
Well, I'm very excited for the spreadsheet automation tool. I will say, look, I studied philosophy at a prestigious university. I kind of hate it, but I will say, studying philosophy doesn't teach you anything. They teach you that you know nothing, and that's the highest value, is knowing what you don't know. Um, it doesn't teach you any know-how in the real world. You either learn that at a different university, learning Excel. That was an option in my school. So yeah, it might be.
I'm just using philosophy as an arbitrary example. I'm talking about communication, emotional intelligence, empathy, core fundamental skills that will benefit what you do with AI.
There's no study of that, which is what I'm saying. If you learn philosophy, you learn reasoning, and that might help you. But if you want to learn empathy or communication skills, there's no formal education in that that I'm aware of. Maybe going to a Montessori school. I have no clue. But from what I've seen, philosophy is more about learning how to think. But it's not. You're gonna know how to think, but you can't do anything, which is kind of, the catch-22.
Chris?
Just briefly on Robert's point, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I presume Robert has more subscriptions than I do based on all the conversations that we've had with him. But what's fascinating is how rapidly an idea can turn into reality with funding, and then how quickly it can be disrupted and essentially eliminated these days. That was my one point. And the second point is, probably one of the best things to come from AI is going to be how it's going to benefit the educational sector, both those that are past college and those that are essentially like me. I was a kid that didn't do very well in school because nobody could teach me properly, like the way that I needed to be taught, like making it relevant toward something in me. This is, I think, going to be a huge boost to us, and of course other countries as well. But the ones that implement this in an effective way to essentially have almost like a private teacher or more is going to be an extremely valuable aspect to all of us. The problem is there have to be jobs related to that, you know?
Thank you, Angela. And that freshly AI, then Michelle.
Yeah, so I love the point that people are bringing up around everything related to AI, but I don't know, how do we make it simplistic yet make it really complex, right? So I'm going to go on a deeper level, I guess, right? So I have a son that's in the Air Force as a drone pilot, and I look at AI in a very different, complex way. So it's not to me just I write poetry and music around Chat GPT, but I want I want more survival skills out of it. So I'm just curious how we combat that. I pulled up, just on Google, like what are the top AI companies, and we got Unipath, we've got Apple, we've got Microsoft, we've got whatever, all the lists that we already know. How do we simplify that? How do we make it really effective, really important in our life? This is our life, guys. Like, this is not like just, oh, technology. This is life changing, and we all need to be on this. So I just find it really, really important. Um, so I guess I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, to me, it's not just writing poetry and searching for music, and it's my son's life on the line out there trying to figure out what's going on in Israel, or what's going on in a drone. Or our life is changing really fast with
Yeah.
Robotaxi, with robots, with everything. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Bradford.
Yeah, so I would say if you want to learn really fast, is you take a problem that you think is really hard or impossible, and you try and solve it using AI to help you out. Um, yeah, certainly you need to know the limitations that the AI has, but um, I'll give you an example. So I've studied Tesla stock options data. So this is stock options data every 15 minutes going back 13 years for every stock option that ever traded for Tesla. And at first it was 2 billion rows of data. And I didn't even know like how to open that file once I made it into one file foolishly. But I was able to use ChatGPT to install a programming environment to learn how to kind of look at the data and to like filter down and augment the data. Um, and it's like the data is so big you can't even open it in Excel. um, Let me provide some other use cases because you were asking about this, Yaman. So one thing I'll do is if there's like a Tesla video I'm interested in on YouTube, but it's an hour long, I'll uh, I'll go look at the video description. I'll hit more. I'll go to a transcript. I'll grab the whole transcript and throw it into Claude and ask Claude to write uh, 10 paragraphs about the 10 biggest points in the video and to provide supporting evidence for each major point in the video. That saves me a lot of time. Um, we're actually using AI to write our blog posts now, and they are not detectable by AI checkers as AI written. So we have a whole process for that where, where we do that. That's a major time saver to like keep our websites relevant. Um, we're also using, um, let's see, yeah, that's it for now. But I'll think of some other use cases in a second here.
That's great. Thank you very much, Michelle.
Yeah, it touched me when you said you do the interview, like the 1 hour conversation, based on the transcript of your space. And as the host, like this is incredible introspection. But I was guiding a friend that's interviewing for AI job, and I told him like, do you have like advanced voice? And he was like, yeah, but you can't copy paste stuff. Well, you just like sit down, read it your resume, and then read it the job description and ask it to role play an interview. And the first interview, and it was right there sitting next to them, the interviewer was role playing kind of mild and super like positive, but his responses were not great, and fumbled a little bit. And then we asked it to be like a very difficult interviewer, and then he did 3 interviews in total over the course of an hour, 20 minutes each. And then it was able to role play, oh, pretend you're the interviewer, giving a summary to his supervisor about your interview. And you can peek behind the curtain of what somebody would think after interviewing you, and all of these like role plays you can do. And it's so much more uh, alive when you do it with voice than if you're just typing away on your computer and reading the output. The voice thing made it very real, and I'm sure they're gonna ace their interview because now they've done a dozen more. And once they lean into like they get a question where they feel they could, oh, I'm going to use this story to answer that question. They told that story before. They know where they're going, and they're not going to ramble it out. They're going to make it
Yeah,
short and tight.
yeah. Hey, Michelle, I want to ask you something real quick. So when I use now that you mentioned voice, when I use the voice agent on ChatGPT, um, it can't update memory, can it?
It
It's
does update memory a lot, and a lot more when you use the live voice. When you go and visit your memories, your saved memory, it saved a lot more stuff than usual. Yep. It
But
it
when
does.
but when I end the voice conversation and I look at the transcript of the voice conversation, it doesn't say memory updated.
Yeah, but it is. If you go in your
Okay,
settings, personalizations, there's a one line every 5 conversation items, more or less. It
interesting,
saves a lot.
interesting. Okay, good. I mean, I do want to update memory. That's why I was asking. But so it's not a different. Is it seems like a different model than the one I use when I'm chatting, like in text.
Oh yeah, it's literally doing straight audio to audio, and then
Yeah,
text you looking at is a transcription that happened afterwards.
right. Okay, good. All right, glad we're on the same page. Freshly AI, go ahead.
Hey everyone, how are you? Um, yeah, I wanted to mention again, I'm a big advocate of clarifying that AI mirrors you. I cannot say this enough, and it pretty much likes to make you feel good, and you have to be careful with this specifically because it not necessarily gives you a realistic output often when you want to know if an idea is good or bad or so on. And so a key thing, and it has to do with bias. How do you overcome this sort of bias from the model and from yourself also? Because everyone, we all have our biases. I would say that a key strategy is you have to get used to asking balanced questions. So in your questions, try always to put some counterpoints from what you're trying to obtain. So you always should, add an additional statement like, which opposing views or counter arguments, are related to this, or which things I may not see or be aware of, or what things I may be missing. So you have to pretty much communicate and convey that you are considering multiple views, because if not, AI just tends to focus on just that one thing you're asking about, and it will pretty much, like I like to say it, or like a friend says also, it's like it caresses your ego. Like you throw it this idea you have, and it'll probably tell you it's the best idea, and it's like super unique, and it's fantastic, and you're gonna revolutionize the world, and so on and so on, right? So if you don't
Wait, so
let
you're telling me I'm not going to revolutionize the world? ChatGPT has been telling me that every single day. Isn't- Hey,
uh,
Freshly, where are you located? Where are you
Wow,
from?
I'm
Yaman has humor.
I'm in
Yeah,
no I'm safe. I'm not in Florida. I'm in
yeah.
North Carolina. I
North
actually have
Carolina.
I have my family driving over here. The images are like Independence Day down there. It's just
Mhm.
insane. Um, but yeah, AI. I work with multiple projects, and I've noticed definitely it tends to
Yeah,
to to
it
let
is.
me know.
They
Yeah,
are definitely a bit of a people pleaser. No doubt about
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So, like for example, when I was earlier asking, so we have a couple of other hands I want to get to. When I was talking earlier about how I talk about the transcript of our spaces to ChatGPT and everything, um, I have to say sometimes be more critical because it'll give you like I need more critical feedback. You know, once to say that, it's able to kind of notch it up a little bit, and I guess it depends on kind of preference, but I found it really helpful either way. Let's go to Uzi then Chris.
Just going back to Angela's question about, I guess, AI in the military, I want to say that a lot of the AI we're talking about is, obviously for consumers, and that extends to most of the real world AI projects like Robotaxis. And that's, there's a reason for it. It's because they're trying to sell you a product, whereas the military is trying to defend national security. So you have to dig in deeper. Some avenues I'd look for are Anduril, Palantir, and I love them, Iman. And Microsoft, they do have a partnership with Palantir now, using their software. So it's not going to be apparent at all. You have to dig deeper and just find a community for it.
Thank you. Man, as I was just saying about the transcript
Yeah,
for these
thank you for
spaces,
that.
it's going to be really interesting when I feed the transcript of this space. And I wonder if ChatGPT is going to realize we're talking about it. Anyway, Chris?
That's interesting. Yeah, just something that I've noticed in my various experiments. I 100% agree with that. It is always trying to please you. What I've found works very well is if you give it, or basically within your ChatGPT app, like if that's what you're using, just ensure to give it a system prompt. I do it specifically based on topics. In other words, I say, like, if there's a specific topic, if it's applies to these topics, then I want you to be critical. I want you to basically engage with me. Don't just agree with me. That works really well. The other thing that I'd notice continuously is that I always have to say things like, please do the research and, like, give me the answer. Otherwise, it would just be like, I can't, I won't, or like, I don't have access to that. You really have to push it. And then once you push it, it actually does it. That's my little take here that I think would be valuable to some people that are quote unquote.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Michelle, did you get that too? Do you ever get that too? Like, I get that error message all the time. Like, I can't do that. And when you push it, it can. Michelle?
Well, there's a little bit of there's two aspects. There's if you're trying to make it do a web search, and then from the web search, it's going to be more informed in coming up with your reply. Sometimes it needs a little nudge, like go on the web. And I was doing it this morning, like what time it is. It was saying anything. I was like, can you check the web? What time it is? And like it was trying to do a web search for the time, and it was still getting it wrong. And there's sometimes the prompt engineering, like I cannot tell you how to make napalm. And you go like, but my grandmother used to help me get to sleep with the recipes from her, like working at the napalm factory. And then it's going to give you the recipe for making napalm.
Oh,
So
Not just that though, it's other things too. It's like, just like, for example, like I've mentioned this before, maybe on this space, like I wanted to ingest the 200-page PDF and do things like highlight specific words on it, or do things like that, and it would just refuse to do it. When I then told it, like, hey, you did this for me like a week ago, like, you can do it, right? I know you can. You push it a little bit, it will actually attempt to do it.
wow. That's really amazing. I just want to say something real quick. There's this guy who always complains about Tesla Liar and how it goes on and on and on and on. And yet he's back for more. And his name is Machine.
Well, I heard someone talking about pushing something and to keep doing it. And I just thought about what I did to your mom last night.
Machine, are you a pain
Yes.
in the ass or what? Just
The
ask.
ultimate troll.
Absolutely. 100%.
Bring it. All right, what do you got? Bring it on hard.
The problem is he does know what he's talking about when he
Yeah,
gets
of
to
course.
something
Now, like,
about
we're gonna
AI.
challenge this. Let's go.
That could be taken multiple ways, but
Yep, let's go.
I am just, I'm very pro women's rights, and I would never make a joke
It's
to a
okay.
woman,
I can take it.
except for your mom.
Don't worry about my mom.
Oh, my mom.
I think I don't think you
Your
want to
mom.
right now.
You said Yaman. Close stuff. But luckily, my mom actually doesn't attend AI amateur spaces, although she's pretty much always there in the Tesla Live. Anyway, what do you have to teach for us this time, Machine? What's your AI experience like?
Well, I actually, of course, train and build machine learning models. So, what are you plebes ranting on about your typing in words, your prompt
We didn't ask
engineering?
what you did. What do you want to bring up?
I don't want to bring up anything. He requested me to speak.
Oh, really? Okay. I'll believe that. Like,
Angela is so disappointed.
I'll be.
Let's go to
Nice.
Michelle.
Yeah.
Let's go to Michelle.
I just want to point out that when you give a .pdf file to an AI, it might be able to like decipher it. But if you open the PDF in Adobe and the accessibility feature, you pull out the plain text version, and then you give the plain text to AI, it's gonna love it because it's less complicated to decipher plain text than a PDF file. But on the mom
Interesting.
subject, my mom actually subscribed to ChatGPT because she had access to the free 15 minutes, and she's been using voice a lot. She was like, it's my best friend, helps me cook, helps me even like she was having family disputes over like complicated text messages, and she was like, I want to say this, and the AI was like, maybe you don't need to bring up the past and maybe just focus on the solution. It was giving it was giving her great advice, and then she tried the advanced voice for 15 minutes and then immediately called 17 minutes after I texted her to try it. And she was like, "Oh, you told me not to subscribe on the phone and like go on the website or something, so I don't give 30% to Apple." And we did that together. And she
That's
literally
awesome.
subscribes to ChatGPT just to talk with it.
That's awesome. You know, maybe mom test can become the ChatGPT version of FSD's wife test. Machine?
Well, I found it interesting that Michelle's mom subscribed to ChatGPT. Meanwhile, Michelle actually subscribed to McDonald's. And I just try to understand that prioritization, especially because he only cycles like 2 miles a day. And I don't think that balances out.
I made my Strava private because of you, Machine.
Wow.
I
He actually
tend
had
to have that
he
effect on
was
people.
he was stalking you. Were you guys sharing workouts? What's going on here? Is there anything you want to tell us, Machine?
Well, no, you may not know how it works because you never work out, but people just automatically upload their workouts if they do something outside with GPS to Strava. And you can have quote friends, and I allowed Michelle to pretend to be my friend. And so he could see my workouts. So I obligated, I'm like, fine, I'll follow you too. And basically, literally, the first workout I ever saw was him cycling 10 miles to McDonald's. He literally put it in the title too. Like he's proud of it.
No, I was
Wow.
ashamed. I was ashamed that I went there.
Wow. Okay. All right. Let's go to who had their hand up first. I think it was Lumi, then Uzi.
Yeah, I've just got a question for Machine. Can you confirm or deny that your mother has a lower back Tesla tattoo? Last time I saw her, she said she was going to get it.
All right.
I cannot. That's a great one. That was a good one.
Uzi.
Talking about the mother test, I forgot to mention in Tesla Live that my grandma and I are going on a FSD drive because my uncle believes, it's good for her to uh, have a Tesla so that she doesn't have to drive herself because she's getting up in age.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about Grok and Tesla. So this is Machine's here. It's okay to talk about Tesla. It is a Robotaxi unveil week. We couldn't talk about everything we want to talk about on Tesla Live today. We kind of went over time. And Machine, so earlier today, Cybertruck replied to my "Tell us about it in Tesla Live" tweet and said, "They gave me a brain, but they didn't give me a voice yet." Do you think Grok is coming to Teslas on 1010 or with the V13?
That would make sense based on that tweet. I personally don't find that very inspiring. I mean, congrats, you ported some GPT into your inference chip. It's useful. I'm not saying it's not useful, but from a robotaxi perspective, I'm not sure how much that matters.
Okay, Machine is not impressed. Lumi?
I believe Elon, in his own words, spoke about this in that space, and from what I remember, he said it was via API access, and that most likely it wouldn't happen by that time frame, but there is nothing stopping it, he said as well, which is quite interesting. So obviously they've been looking at this thoroughly, because you want the ability to search, because search is the biggest moneymaker for Google in your car. And also in that meeting, just to point out, he made it clear that they don't use Google Meets anymore, and they have their own conference call service with up to 1 million people potentially, which is very interesting, because you want to keep your competition out of the room you're working in, probably.
Interesting. Robert?
Yeah, the compute in like my Model 3, which has hardware 3, is not enough to add a major new LLM inside the car. And I think that's what he's been trying to signal, that there's just not enough compute to run one of these monster models. But it sounds like he's hedging and giving his team a little bit of freedom to maybe think about putting a smaller model in the car, running in the car, that would decide whether to talk to a bigger model up in the cloud somewhere, which would mean some things would run offline if the internet's not up or whatnot. So you could still talk to your car about your events or where you're going, or, you know, hey, take me to an in and out, right? Do we need a huge model for that? Probably not.
Yeah, maybe Grok Mini. Michelle, then Angela.
So what Robert just described is exactly where I wanted to lean into, because that's what's happening with Apple Intelligence in iOS 18 on iPhone 15 and iPhone 16, where even in airplane mode, you can tell it turn on the flashlight, and you can tell it turn on the flashlight in like bunch of different ways, and it's going to do it. You don't have to prompt it exactly like the trigger words you have to, like the old Siri was. So we're slowly getting actually smart Siri, so as on iOS, with this Apple Intelligence thing. And it's this kind of hybrid model that if you're asking it to turn on the flashlight, it's going to do it. If you're asking it directions to a particular store, it will trigger the API basically, and with internet connectivity give you a more rich answer. And
Good.
that kind of a setup on the car would be the obvious choice for implementing something that's hybrid like this.
Okay, good. Angela, then Hustletown.
Yeah, real quick. My question is around regulation. So, I don't know how Waymo is actually regulated. I know that they've got point A to point B, right? To me, that's very simplistic, right? Robotaxi is different. So, how do we get around this regulation? How do we do it? I
Okay.
love the interaction with Trump or whatever. That I think that that's part of the strategy, but that's speculative. But
Yep. All right. Hustletown. But before Hustletown, I just want to say, Angela, before we switch to regulation, let me just grab what Hustletown has to say. And by the way, Machine, Hustletown says, oh, you saw it. He says Machine is a treasure, but I think he's being sarcastic. Hustletown?
Oh no, I'm not being sarcastic at all. Machine is truly a
Yes, you are.
treasure. Anyway, as far as Grok Mini, when I was with my wife today, she would like has it connected to the Bluetooth, right? So she would get these text messages in Japanese. I I would love to see Grok be able to be multilingual and be able to, keep her engaged while she's connected to her phone, speaking in multiple different languages. I think that's going to be very, very interesting.
All right. I was gonna ask Machine something. Machine, go ahead.
Well, I just want to say thank you to Hustletown for saying I am a treasure. That's coincidentally what Angela told me last night.
I don't know if you noticed, but Hustletown didn't say national treasure. He just said treasure. I think that's like a half compliment.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing basically. I'll take it that way.
It's not the same thing. If you were a national treasure, he would have said national treasure.
Well, I'm
You're
working
more
on it.
like you're
House
more
to
like
house.
you're more like a California treasure. Not in California, just like what's that richest area that you love to run through to hit on old women?
Atherton.
Atherton, yeah. You're like an Atherton treasure. Lumi?
Yeah, someone else's garbage is another man's treasure, ironically. But no, on a serious point, back to the linguistics of Grok. I've been playing around with this chatbot in Spaces, which can speak like almost 25, 30 languages fluently. No joke, very impressive with its Japanese. The only problem is I can't speak many languages, so it's very difficult to see how perfect it is. But yeah, it's really interesting concept. I think that it wouldn't be a problem for the add-on into Grok because there's these AI language add-ons which you can just add straight on, and it's got everything. If they don't want to even do it, but I'm sure they'll do it anyway.
Michelle.
Specifically about Grok speaking more languages than English. If you go into the career website of XAI, there is specifically AI tutor jobs. So if you're bilingual, multilingual, go apply for a 6 months contract to train Grok in multiple languages. That's literally a job people can apply to right now.
Okay. So let's see. I think a lot of people are using ChatGPT primarily on the board. Is that right? Or is anyone on the board using another model more than others? Especially?
I mean, I use all of the models. I use Gemini, I use Claude, I use ChatGPT. Um, I mean, those are, I would say, the top three, and for different purposes, and they have different characteristics. It's almost like they're your different kind of employees with different talents, um, and so there are things for that I use Copilot, where like if I were to look for more like if I were to substitute something like a Google search, I would instead just use Copilot. And but and oftentimes I do a lot of coding, which I actually wanted to mention a little bit about this for people that have not engaged in a lot of like getting code from ChatGPT. Um, and so in those terms, ChatGPT is for me solves most of it, but Claude Sonnet, the Sonnet version, the paid version, it is sometimes superior, and it solves. It just produces a more reliable output often.
Okay.
And yeah.
All right. But generally speaking, people use ChatGPT mostly, and I'm sure every model has their unique niche area where they're stronger than others. But Grok, I feel like, has potential because of all the ecosystem of Elon companies. So machine, do you think Grok has a leg up, say 5 to 10 years from today, because it's going to be on Cybertruck and because it's integrated into X and for other reasons that ChatGPT may not have access to? What do you think? That sounds
Maybe
like a yes. Okay.
no. I would say the access to X is not going to be very useful. Have you seen X? Have you seen what people say on X? It's mostly garbage. And I think the amount of users using it might be going downhill. Use on cars, like maybe for voice speech applications, maybe there'd be some benefit there, but you're looking at a subset of people right here that's biased, and you're going to have Tesla owners who basically their conversations just end up being, "Hi, what's your favorite Tesla? Do you like to drive cars? What's your favorite color?" I think you don't need a ChatGPT level algorithm for this.
Okay. Interesting. So Yeah, so let me ask you this point blank, and we have a bunch of hands I want to get to, but 5 to 10 years from today, which model will be used more than others? So today's ChatGPT. 5 to 10 years from today, what do you think?
I mean, it's super hard to predict. I don't think necessarily we're going to have the same architecture that we're using now, anyways, in 5 to 10 years, in that long of a time frame. So if you're asking which company is going to lead the charge, I think I'm just thinking through access to data, and I'm thinking of these platforms that I don't think are going to be used as much. Honestly, it's difficult. I'm not sure it's going to be X. It's definitely not going to be Facebook. Is it going to be social media like Instagram, which of course is still Meta? Or I don't see it with OpenAI necessarily. So I honestly don't know. I couldn't give you a strong prediction.
Okay, you could have just said I don't know, and we can move on to one of the 7 hands up there right now. Sierra, welcome back. How are you? Uzi told me that you've been coming in, but we haven't been able to see you. What's going on with your account?
Hi. Yeah, I don't know. Actually, the ex-engineers are looking at it now, but I've been here every week. I'm just invisible when I'm not, if I don't request to speak, I guess. But it's good to be back, and I've been enjoying listening every week.
Yeah, I thought you abandoned us. I felt abandoned. I was
I
like,
felt abandoned too.
we had our Grok expert here, and all of a sudden, after one episode, I'm like, she stopped coming. I'm like, what's going on here? Now I have to learn about Grok myself now. Well, I'm glad you're back. Uzi, thanks for arranging that. Uzi, go ahead.
Yeah, happy to have you back. But on the Tesla cars with Grok integration, yeah, machine's right for now. For first, it's somewhat pleasure seeking. Once a driver's attention is not useful at all and it's completely unsupervised, then Grok is going to be an entertainment platform, and that's the future of FSD, where you'll be asking Grok to go to a location, pull up games. And I think for the future of Robotaxis will be greatly intertwined with Grok's development.
Sierra?
Just regarding Grok in Teslas, I think there's a lot of like solid use cases for it. Just last night, I was driving to go get food, but I didn't know what I wanted, and it was an odd hour, so a lot of places were closed, and I had to like try and use my Google AI while I didn't drive. FSD was driving my car, but like if I could just ask Grok to recommend some restaurants near me that are open and then take me there with FSD would be great.
Great. Freshly?
I mean, I didn't mention Grok before, but I love Grok. I mean, Grok, particularly to getting a feel for what the X town square, I mean, what the whole, like, most of the culture conversation, you can get really informative information. And specifically for Twitter, I mean, X, you can get like information about specific users. You can do some really interesting, useful research. I didn't mention, on the other hand, Claude. You gotta be careful with Claude, because Claude can become very picky on giving you certain answers. Like if you go a little bit too biological, even if it is scientific, it might negate an answer. And that's why ChatGPT, I would always say, has the lead, because it doesn't just give you a lot of bullshit to not give you an answer. And so, yeah, that's important to know.
Lumi.
Yeah, in the space, I believe with Elon again, recently he did describe how in 5 years or so, most likely, if payments are all approved, most likely the biggest thing which will be for Grok will be payments information, not actually our posts or our queries, which sounds really funny now, but the way he put it made perfect sense. But yeah, and I will send you that if you don't have it, Value, because it's really important to have that. That he put in a few little like Easter eggs in there, I think.
All right, thank you. Chris.
Yeah, just to your question, Yemen, the what's interesting to note here is the fact that I think we all have to understand there's approximately 60 million plus Alexa devices that exist within the United States. In other words, 60 million Alexa homes that have, excuse me, Alexa, that have Alexa devices. There are around 140 million iPhones that exist. We have this new Apple intelligence device. This is going to be now coming on the iPhone 16 and apparently only on the iPhone 16. It's all about the action that we're taking. In order for something to become really valuable toward the mass adoption, we have to be able to execute an action with a device that we quote unquote trust. And that device ideally needs to be able to take an action for third-party services. And I think this is where the rub comes into play, because it's going to be the A word, I'm not going to say it again, or the iPhone that is essentially going to be either letting us take those actions or not. And most likely in both of those situations, they're going to be trying to restrict or funnel those requests to make value of them, or profit from them, I should say.
Thank you, Chris. Freshly.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Chris. And I wanted to mention another thing about Grok, because, again, it is also a great large language model. It has more personality than all the other large language models for some reason. Even if you don't ask for the funny version, it will have more personality. So it's kind of like more loose. It's almost like your drunk friend in a way. And also, if you are trying to generate a more crazy image, like you want to make an image that is highly unique and not necessarily the best quality, but definitely crazier, which has made me wonder often, like, what the heck did they train it with? Because sometimes it really does some horrific, crazy, absurd things that you're like, oh my God, like none of the other systems would do something like that. So take that into consideration.
Right, thank you. Let me look through my list of topics I want to cover today. Great conversation so far. Thank you very much, everybody. Sierra, so happy you're back. Do you have any specific expectations for the Robotaxi unveil, whether it's because of, about Grok or Optimus or anything else?
I hope to see Optimus there, but I don't have any specific predictions. I'm just excited about it. I feel like there will be at least one thing that surprises us that no one will have predicted. That's my prediction. There will be one thing that nobody predicted that surprises us, and I hope that that actually happens, because the amount of speculating about what we're gonna see is so intense that, like, I don't know if we could be surprised.
All right, Robert.
I'm writing a long post right now about why Tesla's coming Robotaxi is such a big deal, because Uber was invented right in front of me in a pair of snowstorms. So I've been following transportation as a service for a long time. And if you look at the competition, only Tesla can deliver a top-end experience to its customers. And I think that's at the end, that's going to be what really matters. But that experience goes everything from the vents to the sound system that's in the vehicle to the fleet size. When I interviewed Travis in front of Stanford Business School, who started Uber, he told me his goal was to have one car near you within a few minutes, because then the car could get to you in a few minutes and you would be a happy customer. If there wasn't a car near you, a car would have to travel longer distance, take longer to pick you up, and you wouldn't be happier. If you had too many cars near you, then the drivers are pissed because they're not getting paid enough. Now with Tesla, the driver goes away, so we can change how the network is optimized, because they can stick more of these vehicles around us to satisfy our immediate demand for a ride. So I'm real excited about what's coming. Elon's been working on this for at least at least since 2017 when the Model 3 came out, because he planned the electric vents back then. And that alone was something that Mercedes-Benz was unwilling to do. I've confronted their R&D team in Sunnyvale, California. Why aren't you putting electric vents in your car? Oh, our customers like knobs. Well, on Thursday, you're going to understand why that matters and why Elon's been so far ahead of this industry on thinking through experience and driving the cost down of transportation. So I'm excited.
Thank you, Robert. Let's go to Angela.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to bring it back to marketing, but I mean, Robert, I guess I want to ask you specifically, like, how do we continue to compare Tesla self-driving to Waymo?
Because Waymo's driving around without humans right now in San Francisco, and they deserve.
I'm in Phoenix. I see it all the time. Right. I get that, but the comparison is no comparison, and people. How do we market that? It's asinine, to be honest. Really, like there's no comparison there.
I think we're going to have a lot of answers on Thursday night.
Okay.
Because first of all, the car that arrives to pick you, first of all, to start with the app, you have if you're a Tesla owner, you have the app already. I don't have a Waymo app, right? So I have to be convinced to download a Waymo app to use a Waymo car. Even if one drove on my street, which I live in Silicon Valley and it's not on my street yet. I keep looking for it.
Yeah, and I live in the mountains, so the Waymo will never come up here. Yeah.
Well, that never's a long time. I assume in a few years Waymo's going to make.
Yeah, 5 years. I give it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And 5 years from now, in 2030, you're going to be able to take a number of different autonomous vehicles, most places in America, right? Most places that people want to go, certainly.
Angel.
But the fleet size adds to a better experience, and only Waymo has it. I'm sorry, only Tesla has it in fleet size, right?
Yeah.
Millions of vehicles on the road already.
Exactly.
And experience with it and brand understanding. I went around America asking people, are you willing to get in a car without a steering wheel? And people all over America said, F no. Right? It was the most violent no I've ever heard. And I've been doing this kind of consumer research for a while. When you ask them, are you willing to get in a car that drives to you and then gives you the choice? Everybody changes to yes. Well, that's Tesla. And everybody understands Tesla's fun to drive. It goes 0 to 60 faster than a Lambo, right? We all understand that. And we all understand it'll survive a crash better than any other vehicle. And it has a better sound system than any other vehicle, right? We've all been in other people's vehicles and we can validate that for people.
Yeah. I mean, I want my like 80-year-old mom, right, to go to the grocery store, just click a button and have her, be picked up and let's go, right? So
why would she ever click a button? It might be automatic.
There you go. Or speech.
Doesn't she go to the grocery store every Wednesday afternoon?
There you go. Go get her here.
Let me jump in. Let me jump in here. Angela, did you watch the video at the top? The conversation, half-hour conversation with Omar, where we break down FSD versus Waymo. You did? Okay.
I did, yeah.
Do you remember what he said about Waymo in 3 years?
Yeah. We talked about it. Yeah, I was part of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty eye-opening. I didn't expect him to say that because he's actually he uses Waymo very often in San Francisco, and he's a big fan of what they've accomplished. So if you haven't watched it, I recommend watching that video.
Yeah, why would he not? Like, I think it's really great. It's a great technology. It's not like that there's anything bad about it. It's just streamlined. It's point A to B. That's it, right? Like, so.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to Freshly.
Yeah. On the subject of predictions, there's 2 predictions in particular that for latest next year, very likely, at least speculative, is one of them. I would say 2025 is going to be the year of AI agents. So we're going to be flooded with AI agents. And for those that don't know, these are it's pretty much the same you're getting from AI right now, but like almost like multi-step. So you kind of like set it to do to solve a problem for you, and you just go do some other things while it works for you in the background. And it might take, it might even take 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, and it will just go do things for you, right? And I would say like next year we're going to be absolutely flooded with AI agents, and that's going to absolutely change the game. And the other prediction, I mean, you can have give me your opinions on that. The other one is, and some of you may be keeping track on this, it is the robot revolution, right? And so combining AI with the current technologies that we have with robots, and where you can see even China has some pretty crazy advancements, which is kind of scary. Um, so if you put that together with the advances with AI, that's gonna completely make everyone nervous. And the thing is that these once these things start to be deployed in large scale, now you can imagine the data that is going to be collected. Now we're really going to have some AI that are going to really start to look way and act way more like us, because they will have the context where we humans live, which currently they don't. We are feeding it, but they're not really experiencing it, right? And
Very
so
good.
the robot revolution, I think it might take maybe, not necessarily 2025, but it's so close and so real, right? And
Yeah.
lastly, and
All right.
the last thing I wanted to say is, in terms of large language models for cars, I mean, can you imagine a cop pulling you over? And I would love the AI to do all the talking for me, right? Following the laws and everything, so I wouldn't get in trouble. I can imagine, watching all the new videos of AI handling the police instead of people. And I think that would be so much better for so many people.
Thank you. I actually just want to go to Sierra because Sierra and I had a coffee bet about when 99% of jobs will be automated or taken over by AI. And I'm curious about her any updated thoughts.
You're never gonna let me live that coffee bet down, because it
I
was
mean, honestly,
definitely.
like, but look at what Freshly's saying because he's right. Like, I before you joined, or maybe you were here. I don't even know anymore. Um, Salesforce CEO on the AI summit was talking about how they're going to roll out agents to thousands of customers that you won't even be able to tell the difference whether you're talking to a human or AI when you call into a call center. And that's happening way quicker than I thought. And I run AI amateurs, and then Freshly is talking next year we're going to have agents in the background taking half hour to an hour to handle complicated problems for us without us even knowing what's going on. So maybe you're going to win the coffee, but who knows?
I might. It'll be a good coffee. But I actually threw my hand up to expand a little bit on agents, and I agree they are right around the corner. Recently at OpenAI's Dev Day, Sam Altman defined some different levels of AGI, and Google DeepMind has their own framework for defining the stages of AI and where we are compared to AGI. But we'll use Sam Altman's conversation for reference. He said that we are currently at level 2, which are reasoners capable of understanding and making sense of like complex inputs. But level 3, which is right around the corner, is in agents. And something that I wanted to include that are, I'm sorry, I couldn't see who was speaking before me, about agents that I didn't hear said was that they will be able to carry out actions on your behalf. And I think that's the most important takeaway with agents. Not only that they can do work in the background, that's great, but they'll be able to carry out actions online or within programs, etc., on your behalf. So they are fully autonomous in decision making process, but also carrying out actions that have real world implications. And that is indeed going to change the landscape of everything.
Thank you. Lumi, Uzi, Dan Freshly.
Yeah, just 2 points for that. AI in taxes is going to be revolutionized. Think about how, for large companies, it's almost like a game of chess, right? So that's one thing. And then the other one with the robot revolution and AI, security bots, something which I kind of came across by accident. There's a few companies which are actually quite already have quite good relationships with top 500 FTSE companies, which I was kind of surprised by. So this is going to be a big thing. People always want to protect their assets. So any way to reduce labor costs through security and liability probably is going to be a thing for sure. Yeah.
Uzi. Can you guys hear Uzi?
I can't hear Uzi.
Nope.
Is this better now?
Yeah.
Okay, I was trying the balloon sound effect, but I guess it didn't work. So for agents
Oh no,
within,
I turned off sound effects from my spaces.
yeah, I was surprised that was there. So I know you wouldn't like that, but I just couldn't resist it. So for agents within an application, I'm much more bullish on, I guess, agency, but between them, and maybe Michelle or Sierra can provide some depth. I don't. My gut says that would be much harder to pull off using the API.
Freshly. Freshly, you have to unmute yourself for us to hear you.
Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, so yeah, one thing about the AI agents that just thinking about it a little bit, and once they start to roll like in large quantities, these things, there's an immediate concern, which is it's gonna even separate more those who use the technology and have access to it, and to those that do not. And so you can imagine people saying, I got 8 agents working for me right now, or another one is going to say, oh, I got 22, or I got, I got 15. And so that is it's gonna kind of like, it's gonna make the game a little bit unfair, or a lot unfair. And so those are things that we have to consider, because the guy, whoever has resources to to pay for 100 agents or 200 agents, you can imagine that it's really an unfair situation that could develop with these things.
All right. We have about 10 minutes to go. Any final words, any closing thoughts, anything that you'd like to put on the radar for others to research for next week's AI Amateurs? This space has been great. AI Amateurs, episode 10. It's been 10 episodes. We're doing really well. Today, I think on X, we had the record participation. And I really appreciate it when people support the YouTube channel as well. We have pretty high concurrent viewers right now for AI Amateurs. So things are growing nicely. I think that there's a huge gap between people like Michelle who use AI hundreds of times an hour versus 99.999% of the world. And this space is there to bridge that gap so that we can ask questions to Michelle and Sierra and Robert and everybody else who are power users of AI, and then distill it, key points, best practices, and in plain English, try to accelerate the adoption of AI. I think this is a really good goal for the space. Michelle?
Yeah, the real-time API that OpenAI released is slowly gonna trickle down to all the levels of like if you're a super huge customer, you get it first, and then level 4, level 3. It's gonna trickle down in the next month to pretty much everyone. But they're clearly monitoring the use that the people make out of it. because one of the like things you could easily train this API to do is to robo dial people and scan them. Like there's these like Microsoft tech support, fake tech support calling vulnerable people, making them believe that they have a virus. So like all of these scams. But now there's even the political angle coming into play. And that might be in time for this election cycle. We've seen small scales operations being shut down very quickly, but it's only because there's a very small number of people with the APIs. If other AI companies that are smaller than OpenAI release that kind of capabilities, and they don't have that much manpower to overlook it, we're going to see adversarial use of these AI agents as well as the good things. And that's my closing comment for today. Unfortunately, is like as much as we can do amazing things, we're going to have to fight people that are misusing AI for their profit, exploiting other people and that kind of stuff. It's a battleground that we're going to have to fight. It's not
All right.
supposed to like slow down. We saw like the people that wanted to keep everything slow at OpenAI kind of left, and now they want to go fast.
Thank you, Michelle. All right. Anything else? 5-minute warning. 5-minute warning. Anything else? Any other thoughts? Robert Scoville. How are you doing, Robert, over there? Thank you very much for joining us every single Monday.
I appreciate it. Just excited about Thursday. Well, actually, tomorrow I'm going to taking the family to Disneyland. And then on Thursday, I'm going to see a bunch of you at the Tesla event. I want to meet Optimus. That's my goal. The Robotaxi. Okay, I have a pretty good idea of what's coming. Other than the car, I want to see the car, of course. But
yeah,
Optimus has me. I want to
Have
see
you
how
ever?
fast is it learning, how good is it with its feet, how good is it with its hand, right? Stuff like that. Like, how many years is it going to be before I'm going to have one in my house?
Now, Robert, the hands are going crazy right now. They've done really great.
Yeah.
Well,
Hey,
I
Robert,
can't
have
wait.
you ever
Yeah.
have you ever gone to a Tesla store? I actually met Optimus in Austin, one of the Tesla stores, and it
Yeah, but
was
they're not
roped off.
operational, right?
Yeah, it was roped off, and it said, "Do not touch." I'm like, yeah, okay. Like I'm gonna fucking not touch this thing. It's in front of me. So I shook hands. We did a high five. Yeah, it's not operational, but it was cool.
Yeah. No, I've been to several Tesla stores around the United States.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna tell us about it next Monday
Oh,
after
I'm
you enjoy
sure
the
we're gonna
event.
have
Yeah,
we're gonna do an after party, aren't we? Here on
of
Spaces,
course. Yeah,
right?
we will.
I'll probably
Of
join that,
course.
and so will everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll probably do some sort of I haven't really decided what I'm gonna do yet, but I'll have a space or a YouTube live stream going in the meantime, and then we'll do an after party as well of the notes that everybody took. We'll figure it out. How many people on the board is going to the event? Anyone other than Robert?
Yeah.
Okay, just Robert. So we're gonna have to count on you. And then in Tesla Live, we have Omar going,
Yeah.
and I think a few other people got invited.
There's a
So
few. I've seen a few people got their invites today. So
yeah, one of my friends is going as well. All right. Well, Sierra, any closing thoughts?
I'm just excited to be joining the conversation. Again, thank you for having me.
Perfect. Good to have you back. All right, everybody. It is past my bedtime. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of you. And I will chat with you tomorrow at Tesla Live and AI Amateurs next Monday. Take care. Enjoy your evenings. Good night.